COVID-19, education, the recovery of Atlantic City, and what's next under the Murphy administration are all topics we discuss with the Lieutenant Governor of New Jersey, Sheila Oliver. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose to get lost in the woods to gain experience in forest management.
Choose to travel through time to understand the past.
Choose to soar to pursue a career in dance.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University. Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, a member of Geisinger. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world, and South Jersey Gas. Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. I'm happy to have a special guest this evening is the Lieutenant Governor of New Jersey, Sheila Oliver. Lieutenant Governor, welcome to Latino Motion. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure for me to be here, particularly because we are celebrating October as Hispanic Heritage Month.
Very, very good. Thank you so much. And one of the things that we want to start off our discussion this evening is COVID. As you know, that New Jersey has had a great deal of success in terms of handling the response. Yourself and the governor have been leading the nation in terms of that response. We've had a little hiccup starting in September here with the start of school. Tell me a little bit where that stands currently.
Well, you know, we had our first COVID case in New Jersey March 4th. And here we are, October 6th. Governor Murphy was way ahead of the curveball. He got expert information from people, not just all over the country, but all over the world. And he knew the things and the steps we were going to have to take to keep people safe and healthy and to prevent the virus from spreading. I think what people can't get a sense of is that COVID did not invade all places in New Jersey at the same time. The first clusters began up in the northern part of the state in the Bergen County. That was the epicenter. For those that are in the Atlantic County region, you probably couldn't understand what all the fervor was about and what all the anxiousness was about, because it took several months before you began to see any cases of COVID erupt in Atlantic County. But we have weathered the storm. You've heard the term that we had to flatten the curve. And the way we had to flatten the curve was to prevent people from interacting with each other. There's something that is called community spread with this virus. So we had to do things like have people work remotely. All the businesses had to be shut down, the restaurants and the gymnasiums and bowling alleys and movie theaters, because these are all places where people congregate and could particularly spread the virus. In the beginning, we didn't have enough testing ability, and the pandemic caught the country off guard. We did not have stockpiled enough protective equipment. So our healthcare professionals who had to care for people with a contagious disease, a very contagious disease, we lost healthcare workers because they needed to wear their masks. They needed to wear plastic shield over their faces, gloves, and gowns. In many of the healthcare facilities, unfortunately, in the beginning, healthcare workers were having to reuse masks and reuse gowns, but we've gotten beyond that now. Governor Murphy began to feel comfortable with the drop in cases that were being reported. And that is when we began to, quote, open things back up. 25% occupancy in gyms and that kind of thing. Child care centers began to open so that people could get back to work and to their jobs. The schools were closed all over the state. And most of our state's schools have not had regular school since March.
Yeah, let me ask you a question about that, because obviously that's one of the biggest impact right now as we're trying to recover. Most of the schools are remote. A lot of challenges for families. What have your administration been able to do to help in terms of making this a little better situation for students?
You know, it has been difficult, Bert, because school districts have a great deal of autonomy. And when it was time to open the districts back up, those were decisions that the governor permitted each school district to come to terms with themselves. Every school district had to submit a reopening plan to the New Jersey Department of Education.
Right.
Based on local issues, local concerns, the local input by parents, that determined what was going to happen on a local level. There are approximately 167 school districts in the state that have completely opened with students going to school every day. There are others that are doing 5 days of remote instruction. There are some that are doing a hybrid, and that is they come to school 2 days and they're home remote 3 days. But it was all predicated upon how a community felt the safety was in their community. The other aspect of this was the teachers themselves. And if you have underlying health conditions, if you have diabetes, if you have high blood pressure, if you are recovering from any type of chronic illness, you are more susceptible to catching the virus. So of course, our teacher unions began to have to meet and negotiate with local school districts because they wanted to make certain that their teachers, their members were returning to the safest environment possible to avoid their membership from not getting sick.
I have to tell you that from what I see, and the teachers are doing a great job, because this is so challenging to do the remote, particularly when you're used to interacting with the kids. And I see my son's teacher and the great job she does in terms of controlling the classroom virtually. It's not the same. So it is a challenge.
It is not, and it's very difficult. And we have to tip our hats off to educators because they never had that placed on them before, and it took a lot of retraining on the parts of educators, and just very tough, particularly the lower grades. And just think about 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds, 8, 9. Hard to keep their attention when it's in the classroom, and now we're doing that virtually on a screen. But I think that all over the state, our educators have stepped up. Parents, it's been a challenge for parents as well. What we learned is that, no doubt about it, there is a digital divide in this state. And here, many parents were confronted with having to do home instruction with their children. Many of them did not have the best up-to-date computer skills either. So we have learned a lot about the need for us to prioritize technology in all of our communities across the state.
So, Lieutenant Governor, I know we have a lot to talk about, and certainly there were a lot of initiatives that you undertook in terms of helping small businesses, renters, landlords We'll get to that in the next segment, and also talk a little bit about your efforts in Atlantic City. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. We once again continue our discussion with Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver. And Lieutenant Governor, we were talking about some of the great efforts that you've undertaken with the Governor, Phil Murphy, to address the COVID crisis. Just touch base on some of the initiatives that you have undertaken to help individuals that have been unemployed, that are going through the financial hardship during COVID.
Under Governor Murphy's leadership, a statewide recovery and rebuilding committee was established. And once the governor got that statewide initiative undertaken, it was determined that we could replicate this model for the city of Atlantic City. Given the fact that Atlantic County experienced the highest rate of unemployment in the country, and Atlantic City experienced the highest rate of unemployment in the state and in the country. So subsequently, the governor worked with all of us in the administration, and we recommended to the governor those individuals in the Atlantic City, Atlantic County area who were civic leaders and business leaders in their own right, who had skin in the game in terms of the future of Atlantic City. And so we established Governor Murphy's Restart and Recovery Committee. That committee is chaired by Matt Dougherty, the head of the Casino Redevelopment Agency, and Christina Renna, who runs the Southern New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. They are the co-chairs of the overall working group. The working group consists of people, corporate, gaming industry, educators, independent business owners, healthcare professionals, educators. We're broken down into subcommittees. Each subcommittee has a mission and has an objective, and must come up with recommendations for Governor Murphy and the state administration in terms of what things we can do very quickly to reestablish and bring Atlantic City back to business. Atlantic City is a lifeline for this state. The Atlantic City is just not about Atlantic County. Atlantic City provides economic stimulus to this entire state. There was a time when Atlantic City would see up to 34 million visitors a year. We know that we have suffered a great deal in Atlantic City because of this pandemic. Gaming was our premier employer in the city and in the region. One of the things we're learning and that we're working on, we must diversify the economy of Atlantic City, because you see, if something happens to the gaming industry in Atlantic City, we would see more pain inflicted upon the city and its residents. So we're looking at things like the future of employment, bringing new companies to Atlantic City, workforce development, training and retraining people for the jobs that will be in Atlantic City in the future. The governor announced that we're going to heavily invest in the creation of wind energy. The company that will be doing that, Ørsted, is going to establish its corporate offices in Atlantic City, and there will be the opportunity for people to get jobs in the wind industry, because that is the future of energy. We are going to support independent business owners. We believe entrepreneurship must play a big role in the future of Atlantic City. So some of our subcommittees are working on programs to assist those that are in business already, or those who want to go into business in the future in Atlantic City.
I know that, and I'm happy that you bring this up, and appreciate the opportunity that you afforded me to serve in the committee, and I work on the community outreach subcommittee. The focus not just on the economic, but also quality of life, and that is so important, that to take care of the residents that are here, and to bring new residents into the city. So that's the focus of the.
I'm so glad you touched upon that, Bert, because those of us who have a background in community work, one of the things that's very important to us is that we never forget the residents, the community, the grassroots people. And that committee, Community Development and Wellness, is focusing on quality of life issues in the city of Atlantic City. The people who live in the neighborhoods and the businesses that are in neighborhoods, because a city is really a culmination of a number of neighborhoods, and neighborhoods form a community. Health is very important to us for the city of Atlantic City. And that committee is focusing upon disparities in healthcare. First Lady Tammy Murphy has been doing work in Atlantic City, because when we look at infant deaths at birth, maternal health, Atlantic City suffers from some of the worst disparities in healthcare for women who become pregnant and must deliver babies. We know that the issue of the uninsured continues to be a problem, and we see that in Atlantic City as well. That is why we were on a call this morning with the Department of Banking Commissioner Marlene Caridi, a Latina, and in several weeks, we are establishing a New Jersey health exchange where uninsured people in the state can access health insurance through our state exchange. So this is across the board. We're interested in education in the city of Atlantic City, and what things can we undertake? We've been a good partner with Stockton University. We're doing things like internship programs. I cannot say enough about some of the members of the New Jersey Casino Association who have pooled money this past summer, enabling us to hire 200 young people in the city of Atlantic City to begin to prepare young people for the workforce. And we need that type of energy in the city. Our clergy leaders in the city are part of this initiative, and I'm sure you deal with many of them on your community outreach committee. Yep. But we have included everyone in the rebuilding and the regeneration of the city of Atlantic City. People from all backgrounds, all walks of life, all professions, all ethnicities, all religions. We are building a sense of community in Atlantic City.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Certainly getting all aspects of the community involved, including the Latino community. We really appreciate that, and that's how we get things done. We want to talk a little bit about your commitment in terms of the city, the state takeover of Atlantic City, where that's heading, and also let's talk a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We'll continue our discussion with the Lieutenant Governor of New Jersey, Sheila. And Lieutenant Governor, we've been talking about your commitment to Atlantic City. One question I have is in reference to the state takeover of the city. I saw that you have indicated that there's more work to be done in Atlantic City. Things are going in the right direction, but it's not time to cut off the switch, so to speak. Tell me more about that.
You know, when this law was created, it's called the Municipal Stabilization and Revitalization Act. This law was created during a period of time, almost 5 years ago, when Atlantic City was on the verge of bankruptcy. The casinos had filed tax appeals, and as a result, the city had to pay back exorbitant amounts of money to the casinos and hotels who the judge ruled had been overcharged for their property taxes. That set Atlantic City back even further, and the city had to come to the state government in order to not go bankrupt. When the decision was made, okay, we'll come help, it came with a carrot and a stick. The state must become involved in the oversight of the city so the city never finds itself in this position again. The Department of Community Affairs, which I'm the commissioner of, has something called local government services. And in the law, it is local government services that has the authority and the oversight of the city. We must approve all appointments to boards. We must approve expenditures by the city. We must approve all hiring in the city and a number of other related kinds of things. The initial thrust was to bring financial stability to the city. And that
Let me ask you, do you continue continue the state involvement? You see that as a necessity at this point in time?
Yes, it is, because what we've learned in the Murphy administration, it's not just about the financial stability. It is also about setting a tone of governance in the city and to include the people that live there in the civic life of the community. We saw that there are 10,000 children that live in the city of Atlantic City. There's not enough recreation, not enough developmental activity, not enough employment for young people. We have people who are unemployed and who are seeking work. We want to focus not just on the economics of Atlantic City, but the quality of life for the people in Atlantic City. New housing development.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. And I know what's close and dear to your heart is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And people of color, Latinos, have often been left behind in terms of that economic recovery, in terms of housing. And I know you have approached these issues at the state level. Tell me more about that, please.
Yes, when I assumed the leadership of this department, one of the things that really struck me was that Atlantic City's population is 30% Latino, 30% African American. That represents 60% of the population. But when I looked at the institutions of Atlantic City, I did not see Latinos and African Americans serving in the top leadership positions in the city. We could look at every department and institution in the city. Right. And one of the things that we are totally committed to in Atlantic City is, as you have described it, Bert, equity, inclusion, and diversity. One of the things we know about our state, our Black and Brown communities have the widest wealth gap to be found in the United States of America. We have to do something about that. We cannot have a tale of two cities in Atlantic City where some people are prospering and other people are not. For that reason, our work is not done in Atlantic City, and we have much more work on the ground to get us where we need to go.
And I know that your work's not done in New Jersey. Certainly, I just picked up the announcement a few days ago that the that the Governor Phil Murphy, and yourself will be running for re-election. So tell me a little bit more about that and what you see ahead for your next term in terms of some of the unfinished work that you started and what other work needs to take place going forward.
I think that under the leadership of Governor Murphy, we have made a great deal of progress in the state, and the governor is to be commended for that. During the first several months of his administration, we passed the $15 an hour minimum wage bill. We passed the wage equity bill. We did the law for undocumented residents of the state to be able to get driver's licenses.
Yeah. By the way, do you have an update on that?
We do. We're working the kinks out because once the program was operationalized, we realized there were kinks in the system. So yes, the legislature and the administration under, our Attorney General, they're working towards working those kinks out of the system. But Governor Murphy has the big picture vision, and it's been an honor and a privilege for me to be able to work with him as his lieutenant governor, being the commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs, and moving forward with our work. I think as we move into a second term of a Murphy administration, what is it going to look like? It's going to be continuing the type of work that we have been doing for this first term, but building on it further. New Jersey has the #1 rated public school system in the country. And this is the second year we've won that designation. So we want to make certain that public schools and public education in this state remains #1. You know that Governor Murphy has established a program. Any person in New Jersey that has an income less than $75,000 a year can go to any community college in this state for free. That means we are opening up opportunity for people to get associate degrees, and if they want to go further, they can go get a bachelor's degree. So we established that. The governor has also invested heavily in early childhood education because the data shows us the earlier we can get young children into an educational setting, they'll be more successful in life. So we want to continue that work.
And by the way, that free college also includes Dreamers and undocumented as well.
Absolutely. And we supported our Dreamers out the box. And, we're very pleased that many of our higher ed institutions across the state, on their own, some of those universities have established programs to financially support the Dreamers.
So, Lieutenant Governor, unfortunately, we're running out of time, and I wanted just to express my gratitude for your commitment down here to South Jersey. You've been a great resource for us, and look forward to continuing working with you. And I know you also head up the community affairs, and that's we'll put up the website because there's a lot of programs available for people in need and needing assistance. And we didn't have time to cover all that in this show. But again, thrilled to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Bert. And you're doing a good job as well in the city of Atlantic City. Not only yourself as, a volunteer with the many organizations, but in representing your company. So I appreciate you serving on our Atlantic City Executive Council, as well as our Restore and Recovery Committee. So you keep up your good work as well.
Thank you. And thank you at home for joining us once again here on Latino Motion.
Choose to get your feet wet, to learn more about protecting our environment. Choose to read minds, to understand the human brain.
Choose to get your hands dirty, to create a masterpiece.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, a member of Geisinger. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.